Hey everybody, John the Editor, obviously, right? Right. Last week I did a video called How to Survive a Fraudulently Made or False Rape Accusation, and I gave a list of 4 steps you can take. Now I'm not going to go through all of them again here, you can go watch that video, or I'll link it in the low bar. But quite a few people added comments which were valuable enough to repeat here. Now, the first point I made was start keeping a journal, the kind that is in a sewn and glued binding like this. Now, this is a very small book, but the type of binding is the kind that you want for a journal, because if you tear a page out of this, which I'm not going to do right now, but you'd be able to tell that a page was torn out. Obviously, you don't tear pages out of the journal that you're keeping, you keep it intact even if you make mistakes, because the intactness of that journal is what lends it value. Additionally, if you make a mistake writing in it, you don't scribble out or black out anything. You just, if you want to, just draw a single line through it and initial it, and in fact, initial every page. Number 2, I mentioned that you cut off contact with whoever accuses you of, sexual misconduct. There's no making friends. There's no clearing up misunderstandings. There's no patching up, a broken friendship. Once that gauntlet, once that missile has been fired, it's over. OVAH, over. Cut off contact permanently. That person is no longer a part of your life. That means that regardless of whether they are male or female, you cut off contact. Because although most of this stuff that we're talking about when we see these fraudulent or empty of merit accusations of rape, the ones that we keep seeing over and over and over in the media, mostly they're made by women. But if it's made by a man, the same rules apply. You cut off contact. And it doesn't matter who's making that accusation. They're declaring war on you. They're no longer in your circles. No more email, no more phone calls, no more Google Hangouts or anything like that. Number 3, somebody added a point which was made by the user Nikki Ill, was so excellent I'm going to read it almost exactly as it was written, said the following. One more point. When the nice police officers come to inform you of the accusations against you, be polite. I know you probably want to strangle that bitch, but that has nothing to do with the police. Be polite to the nice officers and keep any comments you have short and factual. Keep your yap shut as much as possible. Without an attorney present, do not communicate or comment on your case. Any and all questions put to you, including your opinion on the weather, are going to be used against you, so shut up. Don't be an idiot. If you are taken into custody, ask that your attorney be notified, and then keep your mouth shut until your attorney arrives. Unless you yourself are an attorney specializing in this area of the law, you don't know what you're doing, so keep your mouth shut until your expert help arrives. Excellent advice contributed by Nikki Ill. That will be point number 5 on the list of 4, now a list of 5. It doesn't matter that this is a false accusation. You're going to have to go through the process. And the process doesn't include getting tasered by the cops, doesn't include throwing a punch at the cops, doesn't include calling them silly names. Shut your mouth and be nice to them. Otherwise, you're a ding-dong and you're going to deserve what you get. The final point that I'm going to add here to the video that I did last week is, if you see somebody making a fraudulent accusation that you know is fraudulent, it's a bunch of hooey, it's meritless, it's baseless, it's made, for reasons other than the imagined reason that some sort of a sexual crime was committed, but they're making that accusation against somebody else other than you, the rule about cutting off contact still applies. You know why? Because if they're willing to do that harm, that damage to somebody else, for whatever reason, for reasons of moral piety, for reasons of signaling that they're virtuous and that other person isn't, whatever the reasons are, and we're assuming that this is a false accusation, there's no reason they won't do it to you too. They're clearly signaling to you, to a thinking person, that they're a hazardous and dangerous person to associate with, the person who makes a fraudulent, frivolous accusation. So even if you see that accusation being made against somebody other than yourself, you cut off contact with the accuser because they've declared themselves your enemy, even if it wasn't you they accused. Okay, so that's the video. And that's really an update of last week's video. But I want to just talk briefly, if you're still here paying attention, to what I'm doing on this channel going forward. Most of the content here is probably going to be related to the Lighthouse project in the foreseeable future, which is an initiative started by Diana Davison and myself, addressing mostly false accusations of sexual misconduct in either social media or through the courts or through the mainstream media, which appears to be a growing plague, a growing toxin on our society. Now, as you probably are aware, the mainstream media, like the CBC and other large corporate channels, are actively aiding and abetting people who make known fraudulent criminal sexual allegations, even after it is shown in the courts that they're fraudsters, that they're actually just opportunist predators using the courts as a weapon, using the police as a weapon, or just the media as a weapon, because of the extreme toxicity of an accusation of sexual misconduct, even when it's made completely without merit. The part of it that I'm mostly working on is the Data Metrics Project, which is where we're taking individual cases and breaking down the stories into what we call metrics, meaning indicators of falsehood, or elements of the story in which, when we have a big enough data store, we can start looking for patterns and letting academics and journalists and law enforcement people have access to this to do data analytics and provide some public resources of how to detect falsehood in these criminal accusations, because in the courts it's increasingly becoming the case that you cannot challenge an accusation. All of the legal activism of feminism surrounding rape and sexual assault is moving in the direction of closing down any avenue of evidence-based defense in the face of such an accusation, which in my view is extremely toxic and dangerous, which is why we're doing this. Anyway, that's the project I'm working on. It's mostly going to inform the content on this channel, and if you want to get more information about it, there's a link to that project in the low bar. And thanks very much for watching, and as always, have a lovely day.